In 1945, Britain has won a war and has nothing left. The country is effectively bankrupt. Rationing is in force and will remain in force for another 9 years. Steel is allocated by the government rather than bought, and the allocations go to export industries and to rebuilding, not to a man who wants to start a business. Foreign exchange is controlled. Materials are scarce, licenses are required, and almost nothing can be obtained through ordinary commercial means. What Britain does have is war surplus, aircraft parts, vehicle components, Nissan huts, and the corrugated and flat steel sheet that was used to build several million air raid shelters and is now being taken back out of gardens. It also has farms that need mechanizing and a construction program that is about to become enormous because large parts of its cities have been flattened, and it digs its holes by hand. Drainage trenches, foundations, service runs, cable ditches. In 1945, these are dug by men with shovels. Mechanical excavators exist, but they are heavy-tracked machines, expensive to buy, and they cannot travel. Moving one to a job means loading it onto a low loader, which means the machine only makes economic sense on a site large enough to keep it working for weeks. For a farmer who needs 100 yards of drainage trench, or a builder putting footings into a single house, there is no machine at all. There are men with shovels. On the 23rd of October, 1945, a 29-year-old rents a lock-up garage in the Staffordshire market town of Uttoxeter. It measures 12 feet by 15. He buys a second-hand welding set from English Electric for £1. The company he starts in that garage now has a turnover approaching £7 billion, operates 22 factories across 4 continents, employs more than 18,000 people, and sells in over 150 countries. It is still owned by his family. That makes it the only company in this entire story that is. Joseph Cyril Bamford is born in 1916 in Uttoxeter, into a family that already manufactures machinery. Bamford's Limited has been an agricultural engineering business in the town since 1871. It builds farm equipment. It is established, respectable, and successful, and it is run by his relatives. Joe Bamford does not inherit it, and he does not stay in it. In October 1945, he goes out on his own with a rented garage and a £1 welding set, in a town where his family name is already on a larger engineering works down the road. His first product is a tipping trailer for farms. He builds it from war surplus. The sides and floor are made from steel sheet that had previously been part of air raid shelters. There is no other steel available to a man in his position, and this is a material that can be obtained and cut and welded by one person in a garage. He sells it at a nearby market for £45, plus a farm cart taken in part exchange. He sells it on the day his son Anthony is born. He immediately builds another one. The first trailer and the £1 welding set have both been preserved. What he does next is the decision that determines everything. Hydraulics in 1945 are not new. They are used in aircraft, in industrial machinery, and in some heavy plant. What they are not, in Britain, is standard equipment on farm machinery, where lifting and tipping are still done with cables, screws, hand levers, and gravity. Bamford puts hydraulics on his trailers and in 1948 produces Europe's first hydraulic tipping trailer. The advantage is immediate and it does not require explanation to a farmer. A hydraulic ram tips a loaded trailer from the tractor seat. A hand-wound mechanism does not. The second application follows straight from the first, and it is a hydraulic loader on the front of a farm tractor. Then, in 1953, he combines the two ends of the machine and creates a product category that did not previously exist. The backhoe loader is a farm tractor with a loader bucket on the front and an excavator arm on the back. The importance of that arrangement is not that it does two jobs, It is that the machine drives itself to the work. A tracked excavator has to be transported. A backhoe loader is a wheeled vehicle that travels on the road under its own power at road speed, arrives at the site, lowers its stabilizers, digs the trench, raises them, uses the front bucket to backfill and load the spoil, and then drives to the next job. That means the machine can be economic on jobs that last an afternoon. It brings mechanical digging down to the scale of a single house foundation, a field drain, a burst water main, a driveway, a grave. The customer is no longer a civil engineering contractor with a fleet. It is a builder with one machine, a farmer, a local council, a drainage contractor, a plant hire yard. That is the whole invention, and it is the same structural insight that two blacksmiths in Rothsay, Minnesota, arrive at from a different direction 4 years later when they build a loader that turns inside its own length. In both cases, the machine is not more capable than what existed. It is capable in places the existing machine could not go. In 1951, Bamford begins painting his products yellow. In 1957, the company launches the Hydra digger, combining the excavator and the major loader into a single all-purpose unit for both agriculture and construction, and the modern JCB backhoe loader is essentially established from that point. The name of the machine becomes the name of the object. In Britain and across much of the Commonwealth, a backhoe loader of any manufacturer is called a JCB, in the way that a vacuum cleaner is called a Hoover. The word enters the dictionary. This is the same thing that happens to Bobcat in North America with the skid steer loader, and it happens for the same reason. When one manufacturer creates a category and holds it long enough, the brand stops being a brand and becomes the noun. JCB expands from the backhoe outward. Telescopic handlers, the load-all, which does for lifting on a farm or a building site what the backhoe did for digging. Excavators, wheel loaders, compact equipment, rough terrain forklifts, its own engines. In 1975, Joseph Cyril Bamford makes his son Anthony chairman of the company. Anthony Bamford is 30 years old. He is the child who was born on the day his father sold the first trailer for £45. Under Anthony Bamford, later Lord Bamford, the company becomes global rather than British. Manufacturing moves offshore alongside the UK plants, India, Brazil, China, and the United States. India becomes the largest single market. JCB India holds over 50% share in several equipment categories, and the yellow backhoe loader becomes one of the most common construction machines in the country. In a market where the alternative to a machine is still, in many places, men with shovels. Joseph Cyril Bamford dies in March 2001 at the age of 84. He had lived to see the garage in Uttoxeter turn into a multinational and to see his name become a common noun in his own language. In 2006, 5 years after his death, JCB does something that has no commercial purpose whatsoever. The company builds a streamliner called Dieselmax, powered by 2 JCB diesel engines of the type used in its own machinery, and takes it to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. Driven by Andy Green, it sets the world diesel land speed record at 350.092 miles per hour. The engines are, in their production form, the engines that power backhoe loaders. 20 years later, the company does it again with a different fuel. In 2026, the JCB Hydromax, running on JCB's own hydrogen engines, records 368 miles per hour, ahead of a formal record attempt. These are the same exercise that Alice Chalmers ran at 7 Midwestern state fairs in 1933, when it hired Barney Oldfield to race tractors on rubber tires in front of farmers who did not believe rubber would grip. The argument is not about speed. The argument is about whether the engine in the machine you are being sold is any good. and a salt flat settles it in front of people who would not read a specification sheet. JCB moved from approximately £6.5 billion of turnover in 2024 toward a projected £7.2 billion in 2025. It operates 22 factories, 11 of them in the United Kingdom and the rest in India, Brazil, China, and the United States. It employs more than 18,000 people and sells in over 150 countries. It is among the 3 largest construction equipment manufacturers in the world. It is not publicly listed. Control sits with Lord Anthony Bamford and the Bamford family, not with shareholders. That last fact is worth stopping on, because it is the exception. Cyrus McCormick's company was merged into International Harvester by J.P. Morgan's money in 1902, and International Harvester's agricultural division was sold to Tenneco in 1984. Jerome Increase Case died in 1891, and his company passed through Kern County Land, Tenneco, and finally into CNH Industrial. Edward P. Alice died in 1889, and the company that carried his name built its last tractor in 1985, before being sold to Deutz and then to AGCO. John Deere handed operational control to his son in 1858, and the family's involvement ended generations ago, though the name remains. Benjamin Holt died in 1920, and the chairmanship of the company, built on his invention, went to the son of the rival he had spent 16 years suing. Harry Ferguson lost his patents in a court in 1952, lost $1 million of his company's valuation on a coin toss in 1953, and was voted out of the company carrying his name in 1954. Cyril and Louis Keller sold the manufacturing rights to their loader to Melro, and the Melro family sold Bobcat to Clark Equipment in 1969, and Clark was sold to Ingersoll Rand, and Ingersoll Rand sold it to Doosan for $4.9 billion in 2007. Gonshiro Kubota's company is still independent, but it is a public corporation and has been for a very long time, and the family does not control it. Every founder in this story either lost the company, sold it, or died before it became what it became. The exception is the man who rented a 12 by 15-foot garage in Atoxeter in October 1945, bought a welding set for £1, cut up air raid shelters to make a trailer, and sold it at a market for £45 on the day his son was born. That son ran the company for 50 years, and his family owns it still. The principle was one arrangement of parts. An excavator digs but cannot travel. A tractor travels but cannot dig. Bolting a digging arm to the back of a machine that drives itself to the job on the public road turns mechanical excavation from something that only makes sense on a large site into something that makes sense on a single afternoon's work. Joseph Cyril Bamford did not invent hydraulics, the excavator, the loader, or the tractor. What he did was put the digger on the back of a vehicle that could get there by itself. 80 years later, the machine is called a JCB, regardless of who built it. Every company has a story like this. Subscribe if you'd like the next one to find you.